a newly pardoned Capitol rioter's freedom did not last very long, as he was fatally shot by a sheriff during a routine traffic stop. Oh, wow. And police brutality? Uh, I don't know. A deputy with the Jasper County Sheriff's Department pulled over Matthew Huddle, 42, of Hobart, Indiana, around 4:15 on Sunday, according to Fox 59. The deputy attempted to arrest Huddle, who was armed. There may have been a scuffle. I don't have the details on that, but Huddle was apparently resisting arrest and was shot. Again, at this moment, there are no further details into what actually happened. Now, that said, back in 2023, Huddle was sentenced to 6 months in federal prison and a year of supervised release for taking part in the January 6th Capitol riots. Authorities said Huddle remained in the Capitol for 16 minutes during the riot. And so I don't know if he was involved in any violence or not. But that's what happened. Now, his uncle, Dale Huddle, was also arrested for his role in the January 6th attack. Both men were tried on 12 different counts. During a news conference following the riot, Uncle Dale had told reporters that he has no regrets. I will not say that I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Well, that's very clear. Now, I wonder if his nephew felt the same way. I mean, I don't know. We could assume, but at the moment we can no longer ask, unless of course you know some way to contact the dead. Look, my condolences, of course, will go out to their family for his family for their loss, right? Sure, but this seems like a case of FAFO here. Okay, not a good thing, but. That's not all. There's more. And it turns out that there are other pardoned Capitol rioters that have been getting themselves into trouble, back into trouble, or they're dealing with previous trouble. Okay? Take David Daniel of Mint Hill. Now, he actually was arrested last fall, not for the Capitol riots, but on charges of possessing child pornography. Oh, I believe we have found the groomers, and it wasn't a drag queen. In fact, look, this was not just possession of material. There was a string of alleged sexual assaults on a minor under the age of 12 that had allegedly gone on for years. Jesus. And it gets worse, by the way. There was a second minor that was also involved. Both of them have testified against Mr. Daniel. Okay, he was charged and arrested on September 20th, 2024 on possession of child pornography and sexual exploitation of a minor related to sexual assault and trafficking of child pornography. So now on January 8th, 2025, Daniel had pleaded guilty to a January 6th charge of assaulting or resisting a police officer. Wow, is it that thin blue line, the respect for law enforcement thing that I keep hearing about? Now, court records state that around 2:46 p.m. at the Capitol building, Daniel had joined another rioter in leading a violent push against a barricaded Senate wing door and officers who were attempting to hold the door closed. This was your peaceful gathering, right? Peaceful. The conviction carried a maximum of 8 years in prison. However, because of President Donald Trump's sweeping pardon, this guy let go, back on the street. And by the way, now prosecutors are like, well, we got to come after him for that child pornography charge. Well, he might attempt to use his pardon to get that charge dropped, because the lawyers may argue that, hey, look, if he had never been charged with that, whole January 6th insurrection thing, then police never would have, found that child pornography on his phone. So you might want to drop it. Wait, what? Again, it is due to the January 6th investigation that his electronic devices were seized and this material was found in his possession. So Oh boy, really, really letting the great people, back out of prison. But we're not done. Oh no, there's Andrew Tate, 36, from Houston, Texas. Now, back in 2023, he pleaded guilty to beating up officers with a metal whip and dousing them with bear spray while storming the Capitol grounds on January 6, 2021. But of course, he got the presidential pardon, as all of them, but now is facing separate charges of child sex solicitation. Yes, that's right. Now, during the January 6th, or after the January 6th thing, he was turned in by a woman, yes, an actual woman, that he had chatted with on Bumble, right? Which is a dating app. He was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison plus 3 years of post-release supervision. But again, thanks to Donald Trump's sweeping pardon of January 6 people, he is out. He is free to go and, I don't know, maybe do some more solicitation of children. I mean, Texas prosecutors are hoping that that's not the case and want him for trial on charges related to these text messages he allegedly sent to an undercover cop that was pretending to be a 15-year-old back in 2016. Spokesperson for the Harris County District Attorney's Office told The Independent that it had first requested his hold back in 2022 and had sent over the relevant paperwork on January 15th, 5 days before Trump's blanket pardon, declaring those imprisoned in the riot as quote-unquote patriots. I mean, it's pretty clear that these people had other non-January 6th related charges. Not all of them, of course, but some of them. Then, if that's the case, why were they released? Because Donald Trump's order specifically wanted them released. Spokesperson for the Federal Bureau of Prisons told The Independent that the pardon order from Trump demanded that all inmates convicted of crimes linked to the Capitol riot be released immediately, regardless of any other outstanding charges against any prisoner in any other case. So if they were a criminal before and they should have been locked up, doesn't matter. Trump said, you're free to go. Get out. The language stated inmates currently held in prison should be released immediately. Our interpretation is if they were on our list and were in prison, they were to be released. This man is now at large. So there you go. Trump's great patriots, okay, that he released. Turns out some of them so-called patriots are pedophiles and violent sociopaths. Oops. I assume some are good people. Okay. But seriously, though, why is Donald Trump emptying the prisons of all these violent sex offenders and criminals? Why is nobody asking that question? I mean, it doesn't sound very law and order to me. I thought Trump was supposed to be the law and order president. Right. Look, there is an irony in seeing a certain percentage of these, January 6ers, who, by the way, the whole thing was infused with like QAnon language. Oh, they're going to get they're going to arrest Joe Biden. They're going to arrest the pedos and all that stuff. We're going to come after them. The storm is coming. The storm is here. January 6th. Really? Well, it's funny because apparently some of the pedos showed up and they thought that they were on the good side. Oops. But no, the irony here is seeing some of those people rearrested for some other crimes, including sex crimes. And then, of course, you had one that just did a FAFO with a sheriff. Look, I can't say that I'm surprised. After all, as I've said before, January 6th, Trump was not sending his best people. The Trump administration announced on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, it would temporarily pause all federal grant, loan, and other financial assistance programs. So the Office of Management and Budget, under the acting director, Matthew Vaith, released a memo stating that federal agencies must temporarily pause all activities related to obligation or disbursement of all federal financial assistance. Now, that's save for Social Security, Medicare, or any assistance provided directly to individuals. Okay, now, the first question is, of course, why? The memo says it's related to the recent executive order targeting woke. I kid you not. To the extent permissible under applicable law, federal agencies must temporarily pause all activities related to obligation or disbursement of all federal financial assistance and other relevant agency activities that may be implicated by executive orders, including, but not limited to, financial assistance for foreign aid, save for Israel and Egypt. That's very important, by the way. All other federal aid cut off except to Israel. And Egypt, of course, for being Israel's ally and our ally and stuff in making deals with Israel. There wouldn't really be a whole lot of Middle East peace if they stopped with Egypt. Non-governmental organizations, DEI, woke gender ideology, the wokers, and the Green New Deal. The memo adds that the suspension will provide the administration with time to review agency programs and determine the best uses of funding for those programs consistent with the law and Trump's priorities. Which, by the way, already I believe it was one of the remaining Koch brother, I guess, organizations that is renewing the push for massive tax cuts for the rich. So if you're wondering what Trump's priorities are, it's to give himself and his rich friends more tax cuts. Okay. Now, agencies have until February 10th to submit detailed information on any programs, projects, or activities that are subject to the pause. So what exactly is affected? I think a better question is what isn't affected? I mean, we're talking about trillions of dollars in spending. Experts have warned that a wide range of activities, including nonprofits, food assistance, yes, the SNAP program, student loans, so no Pell Grants, scientific research, could be impacted by this order. Again, I mentioned the SNAP program, WIC, Section 8 housing, which again is for the poor, okay? Any of these programs that actually help regular people in poverty, are being discontinued. They're on pause right now, they say, but we don't know when that pause will be lifted. Diane Yentl, president and CEO of the National Council of Nonprofits, said this order is a potential 5-alarm fire for nonprofits and the people and communities they serve. From pausing research on cures for childhood cancer to closing homeless shelters, halting food assistance, reducing safety from domestic violence, and shutting down suicide hotlines, the impact of even a short pause in funding could be devastating and cost lives. Yeah. This order could decimate thousands of organizations and leave neighbors without the services that they need. Brian Riedel, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, which is a center-right think tank, also told the Washington Post, this order could, the funding delays are going to prove very difficult for grantees under the impression that the money is coming and have rent and salary payments dependent upon it. Seems like a very big deal. Oh, it seems like a big deal. No, it is a big deal. I mean, yeah, there are people out there that are no longer going to get paid. Rent is not going to get paid. Okay, salaries. People will not have money to spend. What is that going to do to the economy? That's what it's going to do. Okay. I mean, this is a disaster. Okay. That said, it's not entirely legal. Not that that stopped Trump before. Okay. Look, the House, of course, is supposed to control the power of the purse. And the House and Congress has already passed and allocated the funding for these programs. Okay. So shutting them down shouldn't be legal. The president can't just stop that with an executive order. Okay. But he claims he can do that with something called impoundment, right? But wait, there's an act, a law specifically passed to prevent the president from being able to unilaterally do impoundment. Now, does he care? Obviously not. Look, Trump has been flooding the zone with illegal executive orders for pretty much an entire week now. So, I mean, obviously, there's really nothing that's stopping him. So what's Congress doing, by the way? This is clearly taking power away from Congress. Well, they're doing nothing. It's crickets, all right? The Republicans are obviously on board with this, most of them, all right? Well, we'll see where this goes, right, is what one Republican congressman said. Okay, that's to be expected, but what about the Democrats? Where are you? Now, Chuck Schumer has put out a statement saying, oh, well, this is bad. Please stop it, Trump. You're going to hurt people. To which he probably laughed and laughed and laughed, because that's the whole point. Hurting people is the point. He wants to hurt people. His base wants him to hurt people. And this is how they're doing it. Okay, putting a stop to funding. Section 8, food stamps, farm bill stuff. That's what they're shutting down. They do not care. He does not care about laws or norms. Trump came in to wreck shit, and now he is doing it. And this is why I'm actually more frustrated with Democrats, because we knew Republicans, this is what they wanted all along. But Democrats, why were you not prepared to fight this? Why is it that every time you fight with Republicans, you bring a wet noodle to a gunfight? All right? They're over here sending strongly worded letters. And they're trying to do gotchas on Twitter on Trump for lying about lowering grocery prices, which he, of course, we all knew that he was never going to do. Again, news for you. You need different tactics, because shame doesn't work. You can't shame the shameless. What does? I don't know. You got to get tough. You got to get obstinate. The current Democratic leadership, however, will never do it. They do not have the stones for this fight. Do you think that Nancy Pelosi is going to do anything to block Trump? Hakeem Jeffries? No. A lot of them won't, because it might impact their stock portfolio. The traditional way of dealing with Republicans, which has been sending strongly worded letters and doing some finger wagging, is not going to stop Donald Trump. You can't tell him that he can't do something, because when you do, he's going to be like, oh yeah, watch me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it great. I'm going to do it tremendously. I'm going to do it so hard, your head will spin. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. And by the way, Merrick Garland and Republicans, you set this up to where he feels like he can do whatever he wants, because guess what? He's not been held accountable. Remember, he already tried this whole impoundment thing with Ukraine funding. And guess what? He was impeached for it, okay? And then Republicans let him go. That's it. So now, full steam ahead. Impound away. And look, this whole thing, he's been amassing power in the executive branch with unitary executive theory. Guess where that's from? It's Project 2025. This is all Project 2025 that he's using. Okay, unitary executive theory, impoundment, and if you allow him to continue to gather more power in the executive, you're going to end up with a dictatorship. We've already spelled this out. We've already warned people. But yet, everywhere you go, mainstream media, oh, no, Donald Trump, he promised that he distanced himself from Project 2025. And he's not actually going to be a dictator. No, don't worry about that. No. You know what? That was another lie. It was another lie. All right? You guys were dead wrong. And now we're all suffering for it. So, of course, Trump wanted more power. That was the whole point. And now he's got it. And since he has it, he's going to continue to push the limits of what he can do. That first Trump administration, you have to understand, that was him trying to understand what powers he actually has. This one, this administration, is him using those powers and pushing the limit of those powers. And until there's an opposition that is willing to push back, he's going to keep on taking and taking and taking more power until it becomes a dictatorship. A Pennsylvania politician has found out after posting a video mimicking Elon Musk's infamous hand gesture that he had made at Trump's inauguration. So this is Laura Smith, who's a Republican in Montgomery County. Now, she resigned as a supervisor of Towamencin Township on Saturday after posting this video to TikTok.
Just checking in on my friends who are struggling this week. My heart goes out to you. Hope you're doing okay.
And there it is. Oh, no, my heart goes out to you. Definitely a reference to Elon. Okay. Now, following the video's release, two of Smith's colleagues in the township board condemned her post, Philadelphia ABC affiliate WPVI, calling it, quote, repugnant, and pointing out its blatant anti-Semitism. But later on, Smith, she was like, oh, no, that was not a Nazi salute. She told Philadelphia NBC affiliate WCAU in a statement that her video had been, quote, greatly mischaracterized. Really? Watch it again. Mischaracterized. Right. She said, quote, I abhor racism, anti-Semitic, or discrimination in any fashion or form, and my record as a township supervisor attests to my commitment to treat all people with dignity and respect. Right. No, it's pretty clear that what she was doing, okay? Very, very, very clear. You could all see it. Now, she then later removed the clip because she didn't want to give offense. So, wait, if it was mischaracterized and it wasn't actually a Nazi salute, then how could this give offense? And why remove it? And by the way, what made you think that doing this was a good idea in the first place? I will tell you, it's because she knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing, okay? And didn't think that she was going to, get in trouble for it. It's just like that high-profile banker who, after Trump won, he's like, oh, thank goodness I can say slurs again. I feel so free. Well, now you have people like this that feel very much free to show you what they really are. Okay? And that's it. And by the way, speaking of free and who they are, Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk knew what he was doing. However, one of his old friends, Philip Lowe, says, well, hold on. Elon Musk, I don't think he's actually a Nazi. Even though he did a Nazi salute, he's not a Nazi. So let me read what he wrote. Quote, he is something much better or much worse, depending on how you look at it. Oh, that's already not a good opening here. He says, Nazis believe that an entire race was above everyone else. Elon believes he is above everyone else. He believes he has all the solutions. All this talk about getting to Mars to maintain the light of consciousness or all about free speech absolutism is actually BS. Elon knowingly feeds people to manipulate them. Everything Elon does is about acquiring and consolidating power. That is why he likes far-right parties, because they are easier to control. Oh, okay. So that's starting to make some sense. He said Elon did 2 Nazi salutes. He did them for 5 main reasons. 1, he was concerned that the Nazi wing of the MAGA movement, under the influence of Steve Bannon, would drive him away from Trump. Okay. He was upset that he had to go to Israel and Auschwitz to make up for agreeing with a Nazi sympathizer online and wanted to reclaim his power, just like when he told advertisers to go F themselves. Okay. There are some Jews he actually hates, like Sam Altman. I believe that's the OpenAI person. He enjoys a good thrill and knew exactly what he was doing. And 5, his narcissistic self was hoping that the audience would reflect his abject gesture back to him, thereby showing complete control and dominion over it and increasing his leverage over Trump. That did not happen. Bottom line, he writes, Elon is not a Nazi, but he did give 2 Nazi salutes, which is completely unacceptable. So, look, those are compelling points, actually. I do believe that Musk sees himself as some sort of weird savior of humanity. And there's a certain logic to him using fascism as a vehicle to do it. Now, of course, I think it's completely bonkers to believe yourself to be a sole savior of humanity, especially when you're going down the route of fascism, okay, in order to do it. But, I mean, somebody who is a megalomaniac, I don't understand them, but I could see it. All right. So, again, compelling points, right? I think that's a good enough explanation for now as to why he's doing Nazi salutes, other than that maybe actually just is a Nazi. I don't know. He certainly is cozying up with the German far-right party, the AfD, which, by the way, when he was in Germany, he said, oh, you know that whole Holocaust thing, the World War II thing? Maybe you ought to stop feeling so guilty about that as a country. Quote, frankly, there's too much of a focus on past guilt, and we need to move beyond that. Children should not be guilty of the sins of their parents, let alone their parents, their great-grandparents. Look, it's not about you personally feeling guilty, okay? It is about the collective guilt of a country who did horrible things and trying to remember that so that it does not happen again. Then he also said, quote, it's good to be proud of German culture and German values and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything. Okay, look, again, there's nothing wrong with German culture, nothing wrong with German values. German people are pretty good people, right? That said, right, when you start talking about but multiculturalism is coming in to dilute it, that's Nazi talk, all right? That's what it is. Now, the richest man in the world is repeating this stuff, all right? And that is clear dog whistling, all right? Except that it's not just a dog whistle, it's a human whistle. We can all hear it, right? It's very, very open now. Now, getting back to Smith, on Sunday, she announced her resignation. So she effed around, and now she found out. She has announced her resignation on the Towamencin Township website to allow the township to move forward without the encumbrance of the fallout of my video. She done went and canceled herself. Township officials, in response, said the Board of Supervisors intends to accept her resignation and that the board cannot and will not tolerate such conduct. I wonder when she'll be up for a Trump cabinet appointment. But what's really funny about this is, the people that were defending Elon Musk's statement, it's a Roman salute. Yes, that's all it was. This wasn't a Nazi salute at all. It wasn't so bad. So people challenged him and said, okay, well, hey, if it's not so bad, then why don't you do it in public? Why don't you see what happens? Well, she did it. And she found out. The state of Kansas is currently dealing with the largest tuberculosis outbreak in history. Great. You might not have known about it because the Trump administration has paused all public messaging from the CDC and other health agencies. So, yeah, what are the details? According to Ashley Goss, Deputy Secretary of the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, as of January 17th, public health officials reported that they had documented 66 active cases and 79 latent infections in the Kansas City, Kansas metro area since 2024. Most of these cases have been in Wyandotte County, with a handful in Johnson County. So now, look, this has actually been happening since 2021. According to the CDC. Now, back then, of course, they were required to report these things, but now, thanks to Trump and his administration, we are no longer reporting these health updates. Now, this current outbreak is sourced to some Kansas residents who had visited the Federated States of Micronesia. Okay, cases linked to the outbreak were first reported in January 2024, according to KDHE. So far, there have been 2 deaths related to this outbreak, both of which occurred last year. One of the patients, an adult who received a clinical diagnosis of extrapulmonary TB disease, has so far declined treatment despite extensive measures on the part of public health and clinicians who stand by to render any aid should this individual want it. Why would you not want to get treated? I have no idea, but it's not good. The things that my mind goes to, like, oh no, you understand? I'm gonna go alternative medicine. I'm gonna take some ivermectin or something. Oh God, no. Now, the current Kansas City metro tuberculosis outbreak is the largest documented outbreak in U.S. history, according to KDHE. In a statement, it's presently since the 1950s when the CDC started monitoring and reporting TB cases. This outbreak is still ongoing, which means that there could be more cases. But do not expect to hear about them, at least from the CDC or the Trump administration. At least until next month, perhaps. We don't know. A senior official with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services last week instructed agencies such as the FDA and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to temporarily halt public messaging, including advisories, scientific reports, website updates, and social media posts. Completely radio silent during, a TB outbreak, which you would think people want to know. So we got that going on in Kansas. We got bird flu. It's running rampant. Okay. Our agencies, though, radio silent. Shh, be quiet. We can't report on these things. I don't know about you, but I believe that this sounds like a recipe for disaster. Why would you do such a thing? Why? Well, it is because the right wing has become so anti-science, anti-modern medicine that they no longer trust doctors, they no longer trust hospitals, they no longer trust science. You know who they do trust? Donald frickin' Trump. What, Dr. Trump? What? Then there's RFK Jr. 81% trust RFK Jr. and 84% of Republicans trust Donald Trump over doctors. Okay, the CDC, they don't trust CDC at all. HHS, FDA, don't trust them at all. Only 39, 42, and 39% respectively. Oh my God. This is the result, I believe, of COVID breaking people's brains. Okay? And the fact that you have an entire political party out there that has completely rejected facts. They're anti-science completely. I mean, it's insane how broken not only our healthcare system is, obviously, but how broken our media is. Absolutely. And look, here's the thing, right? I'm critical of Big Pharma. Why? Well, I mean, Big Pharma gatekeeps life-saving medication for profit. So that's my problem. Now, the right wing is like, yeah, we don't like Big Pharma either. Okay, well, why? Well, it's because they're infecting people with diseases that they're engineering. What? Wait, the government is engineering diseases, and then Big Pharma is, gets a lot of money in keeping people sick. What? No, that's not the real issue, okay? No, the real issue, like the science, for example, on vaccines is absolutely sound. The medications that they put out do work. What's going on here is you've got greedy pharmaceutical companies that keep those medications from poor people. They gatekeep them. But see, the far right will take a legitimate criticism of, in this case, capitalism, okay? Because that's what's going on here. These pharmaceutical companies, they're not socialists. They're not out here doing things for the betterment of humankind. No, they're doing it for a profit. Okay. They're taking, in a lot of cases, research that is done by universities, which is publicly funded research, privatizing it, okay, privatizing medications, using 100-year patents on it so that they can develop these, these drugs and then sell them at exorbitant prices. If you don't have insurance, well, they can lower the price for you. I mean, for example, if you've got like GoodRx, you have like a card from a website, your medication could go from like $1,000 to like $50. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. But that's our system. It's insane. So, but instead of taking a legitimate criticism of capitalism, which is they gatekeep drugs for profit, okay, the right wing turns it into an argument against facts, just reality. And that's what they've done. Look, I don't think healthcare should be for profit. I don't think drugs should be for profit. Okay, pharmaceuticals. I just don't think there are certain things that should not be profitable. Okay, it shouldn't be for shareholders to profit off of. Shoes are one thing. Yeah, okay, yeah. Benefit from shoes. Benefit from cell phones and widgets, right? But like healthcare, housing, food, those things should not be commodities. You should not be able to profit off those, okay? Those should be a right. But anyway, that's kind of the difference between the right wing and the left, is they'll come up with all the sorts of crazy conspiracies just to defend the capitalists. It's insane. But this would explain why Kansas is facing a literal tuberculosis outbreak, which was in the United States solved with vaccines. Okay. But now we've got anti-vaxxers in charge of our healthcare. And since we do, and since, I think that there is a chance that Republicans will approve R.F. Kennedy to run our healthcare system. And if that happens, then I would expect more of these old-timing diseases to make a roaring comeback. It appears that loyal Democratic voters are getting frustrated that the National Party's response to Donald Trump has been to roll over. Shannon Watts, the self-described normie Democrat and founder of Moms Demand Action, demanded to know on Monday, hey, Democrats in Congress, what's your plan? What is the plan? What are you going to do? She said, there's no sit-in, no filibuster, no direction to voters. And in fact, some of you are actually voting for Trump's agenda. So to see normie Dems like her be like, guys, what are you doing? What is the plan? That's big. Now, by the way, voting for Trump's agenda, that is a reference to Senator John Fetterman, Senator Tim Kaine, and Alyssa Slotkin. They voted in favor of some of the president's cabinet nominees, as well as the anti-immigrant Laken-Riley Act, which would not have passed without their votes. 12 Democrats voted for it. Now, let me just say, before I move on, John Fetterman is the worst mistake I ever made. All right. Look, I did some videos in favor of John Fetterman over Dr. Oz. I didn't want Dr. Oz, right? I had no idea at the time that Fetterman would turn into such a piece of shit. I kid you not. I am so sorry that I ever said anything good about him. Wow, what a disaster. What a mistake. But there's more, okay? Speaking of the normie Dems. Now, Leah Greenberg, a former Democratic congressional staffer who co-founded Indivisible, said the group's members across the country are sharing the same exact sentiment as Watts, and they should be. They should be. But Democrats everywhere should be like, hey, what the hell? Democrats, what are you doing? What happened to the resistance? What happened? You're showing no backbone, no resistance whatsoever. Where is it? Where is it? Look, the party itself has done almost nothing to push back on the firing of the inspectors general, nor have they forcefully stood against Trump's pardoning of the Capitol rioters, Trump's immigration crackdowns in Chicago, New York City, anywhere. They haven't really done a whole lot. Where's the resistance? Well, it's not in Congress. No. Again, Republicans, 12 Democrats gave Republicans, and ICE the power to detain immigrants accused of non-violent crimes, like petty theft, for example. Just the accusation. They don't actually have to have been convicted for non-violent crimes. Just the accusation is enough to have them detained and probably thrown into camp or deported. That bill went to Trump's desks, okay? And as that bill went to the White House, you had House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. He took to social media and he decided to really come after the Trump administration by tweeting, "Presidents come and presidents go. Through it all, God is still on the throne." What? What? Oh, wow. Oh, Hakeem, you really got him? Wow, what a way to nail him to the wall. Woo! What? Seriously? Civil rights attorney Scott Heckinger, he writes, in response to this is what the Democrats have after a week of historic racism, homophobia, illegality, and fascism by the Trump regime. And by the way, not just homophobia, right? Transphobia. Trump banned trans people from the military. Among so many other things, okay? Quote, here's the leader of the opposition party just leaving it to God. Yeah, I mean, look, sure, the car is off the road. We're heading towards cliff, and we're on fire. But hey, you know what? Hakeem Jeffries just says, hey, Jesus, take the wheel. Because why not? Pathetic. Watts Greenberg and Ezra Levin, who also co-founded Indivisible, also called on voters to put pressure on their representatives to act as a true opposition party. Wouldn't that be nice, right? And as Josh Marshall of Talking Points Memo wrote last week, we should focus on making Republicans' unpopular actions as painful as possible for the GOP. So what does Marshall mean by that? Well, instead of trying to court Republicans to vote against Trump's nominees, which has not worked, he floated this novel idea. Hey, Democrats, go on the attack. Actually attack Republicans. Quote, the criticisms of the bad nominees should be as intense as possible and all focused on the support of these senators. No one does you a favor in these settings for being nice. Senators defect when they think that they may pay a price at the ballot box. That is the only way to have messaging that takes the initiative and stays on the attack. If things get too hot and the senator polls their support, great. If not, that just lays the groundwork for beating that senator in the next election. The job of the opposition is quite literally to oppose. Get to it. Wouldn't that be nice if we actually had a Democratic Party that was willing to fight? I've been waiting for them for a long time. I mean, to fight Republicans. We do have a Democratic Party that can fight, but they always fight the left 1,000,000 times harder than they fight against Republicans. And it's because they keep trying to get Republican votes. Okay? For every blue-collar worker we lose in Pennsylvania, these are words of Chuck Schumer, we pick up 2 Republican voters in the suburbs. That was their strategy. And how's that worked out? Not at all. It's been a disaster. Now, Greenberg thinks that calling these politicians and demanding that they stop cowering from Trump might work. I don't know. She said, it would be really cool if we had a party of principled and authentic leaders capable of acting like an opposition party without us constantly yelling at them. I know, it'd be great. But she said, we do not have that right now. So we need to keep yelling at them. Or, you could also vote them out in primaries. I mean, that's what Republicans did. They said, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get rid of you. We're going to defeat you in primary elections. We're going to vote for someone else. We're going to get rid of all the incumbents. okay, until we shape a party that can actually fight. But Democrats, they don't run primaries, okay? I mean, they do technically, okay, but when it comes to defending their incumbents, they're so entrenched. There's millions of dollars that get thrown at, any challenger in the form of negative ads, especially if you're a progressive. You try to run a primary against an entrenched, Democrat, you're going to get destroyed. They hate primaries, and they never give up their power. I mean, the AOC race, for her to take over a very important committee, the House Oversight Committee. I mean, that was a great microcosm of the problem with the Democratic Party. I mean, you have Jerry Connolly, who is dying of cancer right now, hasn't shown up, still getting more votes than AOC to head that committee. It is very clear that the Democratic Party does not want new, younger, progressive voices in it. No, they want to continue the status quo. Look, they haven't listened to us for years, and I'm talking about the left. In fact, when it comes to the left, they'd rather yell at us. And that's it. Yell at us, smear us, call us Bernie bros. Even though we're saying, we actually want you to win, but we want you to win and then do good things. We want you to give people universal health care. Okay. We want you to raise the minimum wage. Okay. We want you to do the things that you said that you were going to do and not just service your donors. But instead, we get yelled at and blamed anytime they're out there blaming the left for Kamala Harris losing. Wait, what left positions did she take? Not really any. Nothing crazy. Okay. Oh, but they went after her for her previous left positions. And she didn't defend them whatsoever. Didn't defend them at all. And said, no, I'm actually going to do more fracking. No, I'm actually going to do even, more harsh immigration. No, I'm not going to change anything when it comes to Gaza. Our policy. No, not going to do it at all. You wonder why she lost. Again, we said, by the way, we said that Biden wouldn't win. And that, hey, maybe we should do a primary. That would be great. But they ran him anyway. Okay. We said run on populist progressive policies. Tour around with Sean Fain, call Republicans weird. Because that worked really well. Let Tim Walz be Tim Walz. Okay? No, instead, they didn't. They muzzled him, and then they ran with tougher, more draconian immigration policy and toured with Liz Cheney. They didn't listen to the left at all. And they hate being criticized by the left, too. And look, again, this criticism does not come from, I hate Democrats. No, this criticism comes from, I actually want Democrats to be a party of working people instead of the party of the donors, and so they can actually win elections and do good things. That's where the criticism comes from. But it appears that the current crop of Democrats, and yes, some of the voters too, because I do read the comments, right? And some of the voters and some of the viewers, I love you guys, right? And gals, but you've got to understand that criticism right now is necessary. But what does it do, you ask? What does it do? It maybe gets us to realign, okay? And start thinking about, how do we win? If you insulate yourself from all the criticism, constructive criticism, right? Which I try to offer. I try to offer constructive criticism. And if you insulate yourself from that, and sometimes react, pretty violently in some cases, not like physical violence, but just very, a lot of anger, at criticism to help the party, to actually help it win, then we don't actually do anything. And what's really more important than reacting to the criticism is, okay, maybe I should get involved in primaries and start primarying people, getting rid of the incumbents and trying to get progressives in these positions. That's really the victory here. Okay, that's what's going to lead to actually beating Republicans, adopting progressive populist policies, and then getting the left involved, giving the left a seat at the table, the actual left. Okay. So far, they haven't done that, and well, we see where we're at. Okay, the Democratic Party, as of right now, has been obsessed with courting Republican voters and ignoring working class progressives, and that's of course because of the donors, which is why primaries are so incredibly important, and why the criticism has to be taken to heart. The Democratic Party is at its lowest point since what, the 90s? Early 90s? 33% approval? That's abysmal. There has to be some introspection here, and there has to be a change in leadership. Our current leaders have done nothing. Our current leaders have engineered 2 disastrous losses to Donald Trump, but have managed to beat back progressives from leadership and from having really any say in the party. And this is why the party keeps losing. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.